Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Dear Goddess. I am so honored that you are here. And in case no one told you today, you are beautiful, you are amazing, you matter, you are worthy as fuck, and you are a magical unicorn, queen of the universe. I am Kel Karuna, transformation coach, spiritual mentor, best-selling author, international speaker, and your host of the Dear Goddess podcast. We have a really powerful conversation today and also so much to catch up on. If you are watching the video, you can probably see that I am not in Bali anymore, given the fireplace behind me. I'm actually in a new podcast studio, and by a new podcast studio, I am in my parents' house sitting on the floor. I don't know why. They have places to sit, they have tables, they have chairs, but for some reason, I thought that sitting on the floor in front of the fireplace just sounded so cozy. Now, mind you, it is summer. It's currently end of July, and while it gets chilly in the morning and evenings here in Washington, it's definitely not cold out. But I don't know, I was just really feeling the fireplace vibe. So I have quite the setup going on, literally sitting on the floor. I have like a chair and the microphone propped up on that. But here we are, and it does feel good. But yes, I am at my parents' house. My parents are not here. They are currently still in Florida, but will be coming to Washington, which is actually the reason I'm in Washington right now. It's to visit family. So I am staying at their house, and it's actually been so nice having my own space during this time of transition in between Bali and the next chapter. And oh my goodness, it has been a transition already. So let's talk about this. So I left Bali last Monday, and that's exactly 1 week ago because I am recording this on Monday. And oh my goodness, my last few days in Bali were not at all what I expected. So my last weekend in Bali, I went to a temple, and it was the most gorgeous temple overlooking the water. I was there for sunset, and it just felt so, so beautiful to be able to really express my prayers and my gratitude to the island of Bali, to the island that was my home for 2.5 years and just holds such a special place in my heart and was just such a portal for healing and transformation and growth and expansion. That was a really, really beautiful and powerful experience. And I also got to pet the holy snakes. So they have snakes at this temple, and they're holy snakes. They protect the temple. And it's kind of funny because I was telling my sister about it after, and she's like, "Oh, I hope they weren't venomous." And I'm like, "Venomous?" Like, that actually did not even cross my mind that I'm going up to these snakes, and there's a snake keeper, we'll call him there, and you give your donation and you get to touch the snake and make a wish. So I did that, and I was telling my sister about it, and I'm like, "No, there's no way they were venomous." And I Google it, and they are in fact venomous, actually highly, highly venomous, like more venomous than a cobra. But apparently no one has gotten bit because they're holy snakes. But that was Saturday night, and it was just such a beautiful experience. But towards the end of the evening, I noticed myself getting a headache, and not just any headache, a specific type of headache that I used to get all the time. I especially remember getting them back when I was married, which makes sense because I feel like the underlying triggers for me for this type of headache are stress and nervous system dysregulation, which was my entire existence when I was married and for a long time after. So I used to get these headaches quite frequently. And it's a specific type of headache called an ice pick headache. That might not be the medical term for it, but that's the general term for it. And I didn't know this until my sister actually mentioned that she also got this kind of headache on occasion and that they're called ice pick headaches. It is appropriately named because it literally feels like you are being stabbed in the temple with an ice pick. And it's the most intense, sharp pain that radiates out for probably about 5 seconds or so. And it literally makes you cringe and wince because it's so fucking painful, and then it stops, and then it keeps going like every 5 seconds. And on Saturday night, I had plans on packing after the temple visit because I didn't want to spend my final days packing. So I'm like, I'll do some Saturday night and I'll do some Sunday evening and then we'll be good. Saturday evening definitely did not pack because I was truly in so much pain and didn't even really sleep much on Saturday night because the pain was just so excruciating. So then Sunday morning, I kind of woke up. I didn't really go to sleep and I was still in so much pain from this headache, which was a bit frustrating because I haven't had one in so long. And I was like, why now? Like, really, I just wanted to enjoy my last few days in Bali. And the message that kept coming through was surrender to the pain. Just surrender to it. Nurture your body, nurture yourself. And I ended up going to the Sunday festival, which I had planned to go to. And when I woke up on Sunday morning in such extreme pain still, I was like, maybe I shouldn't go. But I checked in and it was like, no, just go. And you can always leave if it feels like it's too much. So I went to the Sunday festival, which is so much fun. It's pretty much all of my favorite things in one day. It starts with a meditation, and then usually you choose between breath work and a yoga class. But this day, they also had a fascia maneuver class. And our fascia is basically the network of connective tissue that pretty much holds all of our memories and emotions and stores everything from the past. So I went to that, and then ecstatic dance and a sound healing and a celebration of life and just so many things. And I ended up staying the whole time, which I'm glad I did because it didn't make my headache worse. And there were times where my headache actually felt a lot better. Like when I was dancing and in my body, I noticed that my headache wasn't really there. So it definitely seemed to help. And I got to see so many people. I coordinated going with a couple of friends, and then I just saw so many people just randomly, but nothing is really random. So that was really, really special. And then after that, I had my final sunset in Bali, which I can't even believe it still. Like it still doesn't feel real. It feels like I'm going to be going back in a couple weeks, even though I'm not. But it was so cute. I went to the cacao place where I've literally gone pretty much every single day for I don't even know how many months because that's where I was going to get my cacao. And I see the workers there every day. We got to know each other and they were so cute. The Friday before, they were like, "Okay, miss." They call me miss. I'm like, "Oh, that's sweet. Make sure you come in on Sunday because we got something for you." And they were just so excited to give me whatever they got me. So on Sunday, I go in and I see this gift bag on the counter. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so cute. It's so cute. And I had painted pictures for all of them because I love painting and I love sharing my paintings. I gave them paintings of appreciation a few days before. And then they give me this gift bag and they were all so cute and so excited. And I asked who did the shopping because there's 6 workers there, 4 guys and 2 girls. And the girl was like, the guys did. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so cute. I actually almost started crying. Just the thought of them going to the store and spending their time and their money and picking things out for me. So I open the gift bag and inside is the cutest little pink bear. I don't have her here right now. She's in my bedroom. But the cutest little stuffed pink bear and the colors of the branding of the cacao place are pink. And also I love pink. So they got me this little pink bear. And I was like, "Did you get this because of the cacao colors?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then they also gave me like a scrunchie, a comb. They gave me a comb, some hair clips that have frangipanis on them. Frangipani is not what they're called in Bali, but it's the national flower of Bali. They're just everywhere. I actually have them tattooed on my arm because I wanted to bring them with me because I usually had one in my hair always. And they actually said that. They were like, "So you can always have one in your hair." And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. They got me a bracelet and a sticker and a headband and a couple other really cute things, and it was so sweet, and I just felt so loved, like, truly so, so loved, and it was interesting, though, because my initial reaction was to give the bear away, the cute little pink bear. I'm like, "Oh, I bet I'll probably see some cute little Balinese girl, and I can give it to her, and it'll make her so happy." I love giving. Gifts are not my love language, actually, but I do enjoy surprising people. I love surprising people with things. So sometimes that is a gift. And I recognized that I was thinking about giving this bear away. And I was like, isn't that interesting? And I was like, no, actually, I'm going to keep this bear as a reminder to receive because so often we want to give, 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 give. And sometimes it can feel really challenging to actually receive. So I'm like, no, we are keeping this bear as a reminder to receive love, not just from others, but also from ourselves. And this bear is going to travel the world with me. She's gone on a few adventures already. She's seen Bali sunsets. She's had some wilderness adventures, which I'll share more about as we progress in today's episode. It's really interesting just to notice that natural tendency to just give, especially when we're receiving something. It's like, how can I give it back? So I invite you to get curious about where you are perhaps resistant to receiving in your life, whether it's from the external or even the internal, because so often one of our blocks to self love is actually our ability to receive it. And it creates this resistance and this disconnect because we'll be trying to give ourselves self love, but if we don't feel worthy of it or it doesn't feel safe, or there's quite a few reasons why we might not be open to receiving our own love, then we're not actually going to fully feel it and we're not going to fully embody it. So I decided to keep this bear, and this bear has gone on a few adventures. So that was Sunday evening, my final evening in Bali. And then Monday morning I woke up and it was before my alarm went off. I don't actually use an alarm. I have this app. It's a sleep tracking app, which I don't know how reliable it actually is. But what I like about it is that you can set the ringtone to not an alarm sound, because talk about dysregulating for your nervous system. Really, that's how we start our day, with an alarm, like a warning, starting your day. I don't know who thought that was necessary. This plays some nice nature sounds and things like that. But I picked up my phone and I saw it do a little spinning thing, and how it has the gear thing. And then the screen turned black and then the white Apple logo appeared. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. It's never done that before. Let me just turn it off and turn it back on. That fixes everything in life, right? Wrong. Would not even turn off. And I'm like, that's weird. Let me plug it into my computer, or plug it in again and see if that fixes it. Nope, it was stuck and frozen. And I'm like, okay, well, this is not ideal circumstances for my phone to stop working on the day I'm about to take an international flight and move across the world. But cool. Let me leave my phone. I'm going to go to the beach, do my morning rituals. And when I come back, it's going to be working. I know it. So I went to the beach and didn't have my phone. And so I couldn't take any pictures of my final morning, which was actually kind of sad because I got to see Mama, my beach dog, my Bali beach dog, and we had such a special moment. She was extra snuggly, and I'm like, oh, this would have been such a beautiful picture. But yeah, I just wasn't meant to have pictures that morning. So, and then I didn't even know what time it was. So I'm like, I don't even know how much time I really have to spend here because I needed to finish packing. I did most of my packing the night before, but there were still random things all over. So I'm like, all right, let me go back. My phone's going to be working. I had plans to meet a friend for a coffee, my decaf latte, and then I'm pretty much packed. We're good. So I get back to my place and the phone is still frozen, still on the black screen with the Apple logo. And I'm like, this is not really what I wanted, not really what I expected for today. You don't really expect your phone to stop working. And I'm like, at least I still have WhatsApp on my laptop. I can use that to connect with people like my driver and who's taking me to the airport. Nope, can't use WhatsApp because it's telling me I need to scan the code on my phone. And I'm like, I don't actually have a phone. It's not working. Well, I did have a phone because I brought my old phone from I don't know, 2018 maybe? No, probably older than that because I got my phone in 2020, I think. It's an old ass phone. It's the iPhone 11. I don't even know what number on there they're on now. It's not a new phone, but it worked great, except for the battery died really quickly, and except this morning where it decided to just freeze. So I'm like, at least I have my old phone, turn it on, and none of the apps will download because it's so outdated. It's like, I don't even know how many updates ago it's outdated. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to go to the phone store. So I met my friend for coffee and then I went to the phone store. And I'd be lying if I wasn't feeling a bit frustrated because it was not at all how I planned to spend my final morning in Bali. And I was really just tuning in and getting curious, like, why? Why is this happening? Not why is this happening to me, but why is this happening for me? Why did I have the most horrific headache and issues with my phone my last few days in Bali? And it was so clear what came through. And it made so much sense because when I moved to Bali, I declared that it was my journey of surrender. So it makes sense that in my last few days there, I would be having some challenges and some difficulties, almost as if the universe and Mama Bali were like, okay, this was your journey of surrender. Are you really surrendered? Are you embodied in surrender? Are you able to let go and let life? And I'd say I was because went to the phone store. They were like, okay, we can fix it. It's going to take like an hour for the diagnostic and then maybe like an hour to fix. And I'm like, well, I actually have to leave for the airport in 1 hour. So that's not going to work. Maybe you can just skip the diagnostic and just fix it. And they're like, okay, but we'll just reset it and you'll lose everything on the phone. And I'm like, it's fine. If that's what has to happen, then that's what has to happen. So they reset my phone and then I have to start over from scratch. So I'm doing the setup and it doesn't even tell me how long, but the progress bar is not moving. And I'm like, I feel like this isn't going to work out in time because it's now 11:50 a.m. and my driver was meeting me at 12 p.m. and I still had some packing to do. So I'm like, we need to abort this mission. Like, thank you. Thank you for helping me. And I'll just set up the phone later because you had to be on Wi Fi to set it up. So I left with my phone after 12. My driver is already there. I was mostly packed, but had the random thing. So I grab all my stuff. I ended up with 3 checked bags and get changed really quickly. And now I'm on the way to the airport. Meanwhile, I had envisioned a slow, relaxing morning, taking a shower before I hop on a 20-hour flight. And that did not happen. And it was fine. It all worked out. I arrived back in the US literally the same day. Like, how fucking wild is time? My flight from Bali was PM on Monday, July 1st. I arrived back in the US at 7:40 p.m. on Monday, July 1st, after a 19-hour flight. Like, truly, time does not exist. And it's actually quite disorienting when you are going against time zones and backwards in time. It's a trip. So, my sister picked me up from the airport, brought me to my parents' house, and I didn't get into bed that night until after midnight, which is a late ass night for me. And after all that travel, I was just feeling so exhausted. But I was up before 4, and I'm like, oh no, this is not ideal. I also woke up in the night crying, like literally just woke up crying because I was missing Bali. I mean, I wasn't consciously thinking about missing Bali, but my subconscious was working through some shit. And then same thing the second night. I woke up crying in my sleep. And I also couldn't sleep at all because jet lag is a real thing. I used to always tell myself that I can just adopt the new schedule and it will be fine, but the body truly remembers so much. And we can't trick our body. We can't lie to our body. So my schedule has been completely backwards. I feel so exhausted during the day. Even still, I am feeling so tired during the day and so awake at night, which makes sense because where I'm at in the US, currently Washington State, Bali is 15 hours ahead. So it's literally the exact reverse schedule. The jet lag has been a bit rough. And since experiencing this round of jet lag, I have learned about a lot of different biohacks that you can use, but I haven't used them. A lot of them are things you do right when you land and in preparation for your travels. And yeah, I didn't do them, but making some mental notes for next time. Definitely have had a lot of culture shock. I've been back to the US since moving to Bali, but it seems like every time I come back, it's just more extreme. And I'm like, am I becoming more extreme or is the US becoming more extreme? And I think it's both. I think the gap is just widening. So whenever I come back, I'm like, whoa, this is wild. And I can't believe that this is the life I used to live. Like, this is the reality I used to subscribe to, where I just walk around like a zombie, following these weird ass rules and going to a job that doesn't light me up and doing all the things. And I'm like, this is not it. Not it. I'm definitely not staying here long term. I'll be here for a few weeks visiting family, and then I am moving again. I'm not saying to tell you where yet. You might be able to guess. I feel like it's kind of obvious, but maybe not. But yeah, I'll be making another move here, and I was being intuitively guided not to plan and to just be open to arrive in Washington. We get grounded here, and then it'll all come through. So the plan is still planning, the plan is unfolding, and ultimately my intuition is creating the plan, not me. So it's been really interesting adjusting to the time zones and to life here. I went grocery shopping for the first time, and I don't even know how long, and I cooked for and that was an interesting experience in and of itself. I mean, wow. First of all, 95% of the products in the grocery store are actually poison for your body. If you look at the ingredients, most of them are very toxic for every aspect of your well being. And even things that don't have ingredients, like fucking vegetables that you would think, like, I'm eating healthy. No, the pesticides and shit that they spray on them are so toxic, so toxic. So, grocery shopping was a bit of a challenge because I'm like, what do I even buy? Like, what do I cook? What do I eat? What's not poisonous? So I get my groceries and I cooked for myself, and I haven't cooked at all since moving to Bali. Like, that's not true. I cooked like maybe once when I was in Bali, and mostly because I don't personally love cooking that much, and in Bali, they have so many options for really healthy foods, so many cafes that just use like good quality ingredients, and it's convenient. You don't have to go to the store and buy the things, and it's also really inexpensive to eat out in Bali. So that's pretty much what I've done for the past 2.5 years. I decided that I'm not going to be eating out every single meal in the US. First of all, that doesn't make sense. They don't have the same type of food options here as they do in Bali. So decided I'm going to cook for myself, and it was actually really fun and just felt so good. It just felt so nurturing to have a home cooked meal that I prepared for myself. And it was interesting because I shared a video of me cooking, and by cooking I mean like dancing with a spatula because is that not the best part of cooking? Is just dancing in the kitchen. And then I posted a video of me eating the meal that I prepared, and there was a piece of steak on my plate because I eat meat. I was vegan for about 2 years, and being vegan did not work for my body. I will admit that I was not educated on being vegan and understanding how to eat to make sure my body gets the nutrition that it needs. But overall, being vegan did not work for my body, and I had a lot of resistance to eating meat again. But ultimately, I decided to honor my body and to honor what my body was asking for, and that's meat. And I had a girl message me, and she said, what did she say? Something like, the best way to be high vibe is to not eat death. And I'm like, whoa. And I click on her page, and she's like vegan in the bio. And I'm like, okay, cool. I would say the best way to raise your vibe is to not judge other people's choices, but interesting point of view. And yes, I choose to eat meat. I make sure that I am buying meat that is as humanely raised as possible, pasture raised, farm raised, grass fed. And I also have energetic hygiene practices as it relates to my food. Whenever we're judging someone else, we are really just judging ourselves. And back when I was vegan, I actually had a bit of that myself, where it was like, you're eating meat that's so low frequency, and my energy can only have plants. And now I'm like, no, actually, it's more high frequency to eat the food that supports me and to honor my body. And yes, it is important to have energetic hygiene as it relates to food because food is a frequency. But listen to your body. Another interesting moment. There's been so many interesting moments. So I actually smoked weed for the first time in over at least 3 years. Let me provide some context here. So the first time I ever smoked weed was actually in high school, and I wouldn't say I smoked a lot in high school because I didn't, but I definitely got high more than a few times. And then in college, smoked a lot of weed. After college, smoked even more weed because that was when I was married because pretty much got married pretty soon after graduating from graduate school and pretty much spent all of my marriage high. It was very much a coping mechanism to numb and disconnect from my reality. And then when I left the marriage, I stopped smoking and then started again, and, it was also very much a coping mechanism as a way to numb and disconnect and to escape my reality, and also to try to manage anxiety because I had extreme anxiety and panic attacks, and weed kinda helped, but also sometimes it made it way worse. At the same time, I think in my mind, I was probably like, "I'm having anxiety either way. There's a chance it might make it better and suppress it. I'm going to take that chance, even if it means it might make it worse, because either way, I'm probably going to be feeling some degree of anxiety. So, smoked a lot of weed pretty much all day, every day. I would snort Adderall in the morning, consume caffeine all day long, do lots of other activities that were very dysregulating for my nervous system, including just suppress and avoid trauma from the past and all of my emotions. And then wonder why I have anxiety and I would just smoke. That was my solution. I had the vape pen, I would eat edibles. And there were times throughout my journey, especially as I started to go deeper with the work, where I would use weed in a more conscious way. Like I would get high and go to a yoga class, or I would get high and go out in nature. And there were aspects of using it as a way to connect with myself, but in general, it has always been a way for me to disconnect, and then eventually I just stopped altogether. I stopped smoking, vaping, eating edibles, and it was never like a decision, like, "I'm stopping this." It was more so like I just didn't have the desire, so I didn't. And then I moved to Bali and definitely did not smoke weed in Bali because fun fact, in case you are not aware, the penalty for drugs in Bali is death. Death, like straight up death. No tolerance for drugs in Bali. So definitely did not smoke in Bali or use weed in any form. And also, I just didn't really have a desire to. But these past few months, I had really been feeling a call to use it in a very conscious and spiritual and ceremonial way. So that's something that I was looking forward to because I was like, I feel like I'm just going to have so many creative downloads, and I think it's gonna be a really powerful and really healing experience. So earlier this week, I went to the cannabis store. Now, mind you, I used to go all the time. It was like my favorite thing to do. I would go and just buy. This is going back to like 2020, 2021. I would go and buy so many different cartridges. Some people enjoy wine tastings. I enjoyed weed tastings, I guess, not really a tasting, but you know what I mean. I would go and buy so many different ones, and I would be like, this is my weed for chilling during the day. This is my weed for the evening. This is my bubble bath weed. This is my working out weed. I pretty much had a specific blend for every activity that I did because I did every activity high. So I told her that I was looking for something that would help me connect with my creativity. So then she's asking me if I want a vape or leaves or a joint. I'm like, let's do a pre roll because I wanted to work with the leaves themselves. I didn't want anything processed. And I also don't know how to roll joints. So I'm like, let's get a pre roll. And then she's asking me, do I want an infusion or she said something else? And I'm like, what does that mean? I'm so disconnected from this realm right now. It's been so long. I don't even know what any of this means. And she's like, well, one has key for crystals mixed in. And I'm like, no, not that one. Let's just go basic. I'm not trying to get stoned out of my mind, especially since I haven't smoked in so long. I'm really looking for something basic. So she picked four different ones that she felt were aligned that she recommended. And I intuitively picked one. It was called Sunset Lemonade. So I got it and I had it for a couple days and I was planning on doing my ceremony on Friday. So Friday comes and I was actually so excited. I'm like, oh, what is this experience going to be like? And I could not have anticipated the experience that I had. When I tell you it was one of the most profound experiences in my entire life, I'm not kidding. I have sat with ayahuasca 3 times. I have sat with bufo 2 times, combo 2 times, psilocybin, smoked a shit ton of weed in the past. This experience was by far one of the most profound things I've ever encountered. Top 3 spiritual experiences for sure. If so, I set my intentions. My intentions were to be open to receive, to connect with my creativity, and to have fun. So, set my intentions, and then I connect with the plant, I connect with the leaves. And a few days prior, I had listened to a podcast episode about the spirituality of cannabis. And it was talking about the energy of the plant, the spirit of the plant. And it was actually fascinating and really, really interesting to learn more about the plants from a spiritual and energetic lens. A lot of it, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. The way the energy of cannabis and the spirit of cannabis works, it's all heart chakra. And it's an ally of Gaia to really support humanity and to come into deeper levels of compassion. And everything that she was sharing in this episode, I'm like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And it was really fascinating. So I was already going into the experience with a totally different perspective of weed, of cannabis, of marijuana, all these different names for this plant medicine that has such powerful benefits. So then I light the joint and I took probably about like 3 hits of it. Now, mind you, it was a fresh pre-roll. So a lot of that was probably just paper burning and kind of getting it started. But after the 3 hits, I put it out because my intention was not to get stoned out of my mind. I wasn't really coming from a place of, I just want to get high. I was coming from a place of, I'm going on a spiritual journey. But after the 3 hits, I was like, I don't think I'm feeling anything. So I'm like, okay, let me take like a couple more. So I relit it and I probably took like maybe 3 more hits. And then I'm like, maybe I feel a little bit. And I sat on the couch and was like, all right, let me close my eyes and see what happens. So I noticed that my jaw started to shake a little bit. And if you listen to the episode where I shared my experience with my Bufo ceremony, you would know that that was something that came through a lot in that ceremony where my jaw was just like spasming and shaking out of control. So it happened here, but just it was very subtle. I noticed it because I was like connecting with my body and it didn't last a long time. But then after that, I felt so much Kundalini energy in my body. Now, I started working with the energy of Kundalini back in Bali when I first moved there. It was 2023. And Kundalini activation process, which is an energy transmission, was a big part of my journey that year. And the very first Kundalini activation process session that I had really just activated my Kundalini in a way I had never experienced before, like full Kundalini awakening, where I actually had full body orgasm because Kundalini energy is this untapped reservoir of energy that originates in the base of our spine. And it's our life force energy. It's our Shakti, and it lays dormant for most of us until it's actually activated. And it doesn't need to necessarily be activated through this Kundalini activation process. It's called CAP, but that is a path to it. There's lots of paths to awaken and activate your Kundalini energy. But since it originates near your sex organs, it can sometimes activate sexual energy and it's also associated with your sexual energy. So the very first time it was like a full body orgasm and then not just a sexual orgasm, but like an entire body orgasm, which feels as incredible as it sounds. And I've experienced quite a few of those since, not in sexual activity, but just through energy work and different life experiences because really orgasm it's a frequency. It's often achieved through sex and like rubbing together and friction and creating a specific frequency, but ultimately you don't need sex to have an orgasm, especially when it's a full body orgasm like that. So I'm sitting on the couch and I'm feeling all of this kundalini energy and I was just feeling so turned on. Like it was truly the most pleasure I've ever experienced in my entire body. I was just so open and so receptive and feeling so turned on, not just in a sexual way, but in life. And oh my goodness, I don't even know where to begin in explaining the journey that I went on. It was all about pleasure, and I have never experienced more pleasure in my entire life. And when I say the word pleasure, there's often this association that we have with pleasure only being related to sexual experiences and sexual pleasure, but pleasure just satisfaction, feeling good, feeling turned on, not necessarily in a sexual way, but feeling turned on by life. And it was profound. Like 3 hours of just pure pleasure and full body orgasms. It felt like every single cell in my body was being turned on and meeting God in every single cell of my body. And everything just felt so good. I was listening to Fred again, of course, his album Secret Life, which is so beautiful. And it was like every note was turning me on. Every chord and melody was just like making my brain orgasm. And I was laying outside and just the sensation of the sun on my skin and the cool breeze, it was like the most pleasure I've ever experienced. And I had so many breakthroughs as it relates to not feeling safe with pleasure. And how every time I kind of came close to a pleasurable life experience in the past, it didn't feel safe. So, specifically when I was married and our life changed so fast, and as we were building our business, and I had things that one might consider to be pleasurable. I had a lot of success, I had a lot of money, I had a nice car, and it never felt safe. It never felt safe for me to actually experience pleasure with anything, not just because of the man that I was married to, but also because I came to realize the next part of this journey was it never felt safe for any of my female ancestors to experience pleasure. And then it turned into this whole ancestral healing. And then I'm like in the quantum, literally clearing out and cleansing every atom and electron in my body from shame, because shame is one of our blocks to pleasure. We don't feel worthy of pleasure. We don't feel safe experiencing pleasure. So now I'm in the quantum doing some psychic surgery. Mind you, it's like 1 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and I'm like casual psychic surgery, healing the ancestors. And then after that, I've never felt more pleasure in my entire body. It literally just felt like I was meeting like a goddess in every single one of my cells. And it was so profound and so beautiful. And I received so many downloads and so many codes, and just this remembrance of this is our true state of being. As women, we are designed for pleasure. Hello, we have a clitoris that has no other purpose than experiencing pleasure through the over 8,000 nerve endings there. Like, we are wired and built for pleasure. And yet, most of the time, we don't feel safe actually feeling and experiencing pleasure. And again, not just from a sexual standpoint, but from an I am so turned on by life standpoint. And the messages that were coming through were just so profound as it related to not just my own personal journey, but to my purpose and the path that I'm supporting and guiding women on. Because ultimately, we go on this healing journey, and it's like we're healing, we're doing the healing things, but the goal isn't to heal. Sometimes we forget. I definitely forgot. It's like, I'm healing, I'm healing, I'm healing. And it's like, but why? Why are you healing? To live the most pleasurable and juicy and delicious life possible. That's why I'm healing, but we forget. And that's really what it's all about. How alive can you feel? How much pleasure can you feel in each and every moment? So, this journey with weed was not just calibrating to new levels of pleasure and creating safety and feeling the pleasure, but having all of this awareness and downloads and codes drop through, and like even new programs are coming through as it relates to pleasure. So many exciting things happened with that. And I could keep going on and on and on, but this episode really is not just about this weed ceremony, with like, wow, was not expecting that. And then later that day, I got to go over and see my niece and nephews, and we painted together. So I got some more creativity in, and it was just so fun. I also went hiking. I went hiking and camping. When I lived in Washington, it did not go on that many hikes. And Washington is actually known for its hiking and its outdoor lifestyle and It really is one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's so different from Bali, but the nature here is just incredible with the mountains and the forest. And my sister and brother-in-law, niece and nephews, they're a hiking family. They are super into hiking, and I've done a few hikes with them in the past. And when I was here last summer visiting from Bali, I probably went on more hikes with them than I ever did when I was living in Washington because I used to tell myself I don't like hiking and I don't really enjoy like the outdoors. And I don't know what the fuck I was thinking because I actually love it so much. Being in nature is one of my most favorite things. So they told me they were going on a hike, and I was like, yes, please. Like, can I invite myself onto all of them and just like, crash your family life? And then they also mentioned that they were going camping. Now, I have not been camping since I was probably about 10 years old and in Girl Scouts. And this is back in Florida and a very different camping experience. I used to joke and say that my idea of camping is the Holiday Inn, except I wasn't really joking. Like, yeah, I don't do the camping thing. I'd rather not. I need air conditioning and indoors and like all of my things, and I'm not interested in like being on the ground in the woods. Like, no, thank you. But when she mentioned they were going camping, I was so excited about it. And I'm like, I actually really want to do that. Like, I would love to go. So we went hiking yesterday, and then yesterday evening we did the camping, and it was so incredible. First of all, the way my sister and her immediate family does camping is whew, next level. They have amazing camping gear. I had my own tent. I had a blow up mattress, a sleeping bag, a pillow. I had everything I needed and all set up for me. I helped where I could, but it's like I don't know what I'm doing. But I helped set up my tent a little bit. She brought so much food. We made s'mores. We had these delicious Greek salads, and it was fully set up. And there was a river nearby. So my sister and niece and I went in and did the cold plunge because it was freezing, but it was so much fun. And mind you, there's no shower. I didn't feel like dirty, but I was cleansing in the river and washing my face. And I'm like, I'm a wilderness woman. Like, I'm in my wilderness woman era. It was so beautiful to be surrounded by nature and to be fully disconnected because there's no cell service and there is no Wi-Fi in the mountains. And earlier that day, I climbed the mountain, which was honestly incredible and terrifying. I have a bit of a fear of heights. So at the very top of the mountain, when you can see everything and you're literally on the peak, I was feeling dysregulated. It was terrifying, but also just so incredible. Then later, I'm in the river, and it felt so good to just be in nature and disconnected from everything electricity, the Wi Fi, and you don't even realize how that affects your system until you're removed from it. It's like this like breath of fresh air. It felt so, so good. So then it's bedtime, and they're in their tent, and I'm in my tent, and it was just such a fun experience. And you hear the nature sounds outside. And last night, actually, I had another ancestral healing journey just in my sleep, casual. And it was related to my female ancestors and this knowing that they never felt safe, not just with their pleasure, but also being in their power. So healing and clearing what I was still carrying and what's been held within my ancestral lineage. And I'm like, this is wild. I'm in a tent in the woods, healing my ancestral lines. My niece and nephews are in the tent next door, but I'm going on this journey. Yeah, it was an experience. I also got to pee in the woods, which I was so excited about. I don't know why, but I was so excited about getting the opportunity to pee in the woods. Now, this is a new thing for me. This isn't something that I've always wanted to do. In fact, in the past, if you had told me there were no bathrooms, I would have been like, no thanks, I'm not going. There actually were bathrooms, and I'm like, I kind of want to do the wilderness experience and just pee in the woods. So I got to pee in the woods, and yeah, I loved it. It was incredible. So much fun. And just being in nature is just so beautiful and so healing. There's been so much that has happened this week, but there's one more moment that I want to share with you. And this is actually the main theme of our episode today, although we've covered quite a few things. On Tuesday, I decided to go to this coffee shop. So I arrived Monday. That was the date I got in, literally got like 4 hours of sleep, and I was just feeling so exhausted. But I didn't want to just lay around and nap all day because I wanted to adjust to the new schedule here, and I don't feel like that would have been conducive for that. So I was relaxing, taking it easy, but I decided to go to a coffee shop and I figured I would try matcha. Now, I haven't had matcha since after I had my bufo ceremony, and afterwards it was way too much caffeine for my system. So I'm like, let me just try some matcha and maybe the caffeine might feel supportive today. But in general, I don't want to be relying on things external to myself for energy. That's my personal preference. But I'm like, let me just see how it goes because I also do really enjoy the taste of matcha, except not from this coffee shop. So I go to this coffee shop and I pay like $10 for a matcha, which is like double than it was in Bali at a place where it's like not Bali prices, but it was the best matcha ever because they have their homemade almond milk. So I paid $10 for a matcha that does not have homemade almond milk and also did not even taste that good. And I'm like, this is silly. Like, why? But anyway, I was waiting in line to get my matcha and I had already ordered and I'm standing in the area where everyone else was waiting to get their order. And I hear this woman tell the man she's giving him her cup back because her order wasn't correct, and she's, like, explaining what it's supposed to be, and then she says, "Sorry, I'm high maintenance," and then she, like, steps aside, and I was pretty close to her, so I look at her and I tell her, "You don't need to apologize for being high maintenance." And she laughed, but I wasn't joking. And also, I'm thinking to myself, when did the bare minimum become being high maintenance? She was literally just asking for her coffee to be prepared how she ordered it. And in her mind, that was perceived as being high maintenance. And this is something that collectively as women, we are experiencing. We are conditioned to have shame for having needs and desires and standards for ourselves. This belief that being high maintenance is a flaw or something to apologize for runs deep. It's been programmed and conditioned into us. And it's almost never actually about us being too much or being high maintenance, but more so about how women have been conditioned to view their needs, desires, and self expression as a burden. And this is something that we need to heal and rewrite, not just for the quality of our lives, but also for all women who have suppressed their needs and desires and have lowered their standards because of the conditioning we've experienced as it relates to our own personal circumstances and trauma, but also from the experience of living in a patriarchal society. So, this kind of apologizing, this apologizing for having a need, for having a desire, for taking up space, for breathing, for having an opinion, it's deeply connected to internalized shame and more specifically to how women have been conditioned to shrink, to dismiss themselves, to take up less space. And I have been reflecting on this ever since I witnessed this and had this conversation. And by conversation, all I said was, you don't need to apologize for being high maintenance. I didn't even get into the fact that that's not high maintenance. What is high maintenance? And even if you are high maintenance, like you don't need to apologize for it. It's like own your shit. And this is not judgments towards this woman. My heart actually cracked open for her because I'm like, this isn't just you. This is collectively as women. We've been conditioned to view ourselves as high maintenance for having needs, as being high maintenance for having desires, for apologizing for our opinion. And it's pretty fucked up. And I was reflecting on why. Like, why is this our reality? And I came up with a few reasons for this. So, number one is the cultural conditioning to be like low impact and just easygoing. And from an early age, girls are praised for being good, for being nice, for being easy to please. And we're taught to accommodate others, to not ask for too much, and to just be chill, which is really code for don't be inconvenient. So when a woman names her needs, or asks for clarity, or expresses her preferences, or has an opinion that might be different than the mainstream, it brushes up against that internalized narrative that she's being difficult. And we carry so much shame around this. We also carry a lack of safety around this because in the past, it wasn't safe for women to have desires. It wasn't safe for women to have needs. So when we're shifting out of this, there's often this sense of it doesn't feel safe. So it feels easier and it feels safer to just dismiss and to suppress and to be the good girl and to be nice and to just be easygoing. The second reason I came up with is this fear of rejection or being seen as too much. And for so many women, we have a core wound of feeling like we are too much. And it's like, too much of what? Most of the time, we don't even know. Too emotional, too needy, too sensitive, too intense. So it's like this sense of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. If you remember that story where it's like, I think it's like the porridge, like this one's too much, then this one's not enough, and this one's too hot or this one's too cold. I actually don't remember that story that much, but it's like this one's just right. And as women, we're taught that we're too much of this and we're not enough of that. And it's like, damned if we do and damned if we don't. Can't we just be the perfect amount of ourselves? We're either feeling like we're too much or feeling like we're not enough. And it's all a lie. It's all a distortion of our truth. This is related to why asking for something triggers this fear of abandonment or being labeled as dramatic or being needy. So, what do? We apologize, we shrink, we make ourselves small, all to protect ourselves from this fear of rejection or being seen as too much. I feel like there is also this cultural conditioning that, like, the cool girls are the ones who are just chill and don't ask for anything and who don't cause a fuss and are just low maintenance and always smiling and just go with the flow. And it creates a lot of pressure for women to be effortlessly easy and just selfless and to never need support or validation or rest. And in contrast, women who know what they want and express it are often labeled as bossy or high maintenance or hard to love or just difficult or a bitch. And it's like, really? Like, how convenient is that for society to just completely condition women to just be easygoing so that way they can just go with the flow? Because when women are in their power, that's not convenient. That's not convenient for society. That's not convenient for companies that profit on our insecurities and really on us hating ourselves. And this often contributes to having a lot of shame around our desires and our standards. And we often have shame attached to wanting more, regardless of what more is: more depth, more attention, more romance, more support, or even just more of the right thing that we ordered. Because somewhere along the line, women learned that having standards meant that they were demanding, meant they were difficult, meant they were ungrateful. And women have been conditioned to believe that they are unworthy. So they aren't even deserving of the bare minimum. They aren't deserving or worthy of their standards or desires. And high maintenance becomes this catch all phrase to label the very things that actually reflect our worth. High maintenance isn't about being difficult, it's not about being complicated. It's about having standards for yourself. And when you have standards for yourself, that does a few things. Number one, it mirrors where other people are lacking in their standards or are not living in alignment with their standards. And number two, you become less convenient. And we live in a society that wants to make women as small and insignificant and as disconnected from their power as possible. Because when we are disconnected from our power, not only are we easier to control, but we doubt ourselves. We don't believe in our worthiness. We play small. We dismiss our needs, and we're disconnected from our true power. And as women, we are the most powerful forces on the planet. which is in a bit of contrast to a patriarchal model that we're living in. And this leads us to the last reason that I came up with for why we have this shame around our desires, and it really is related to generational and lineage wounds. So most of us have witnessed our mothers or and our grandmothers or our caregivers staying quiet and settling and putting others first and prioritizing others and abandoning themselves and to dismissing their needs. And we inherited patterns that associate silence and suppression and abandoning ourselves with safety and self sacrifice, and that equating to love. So when we begin to break that mold and to start honoring ourselves, it can actually feel not just uncomfortable, but wrong. It could feel like a threat because our nervous system has become programmed to silence. It's become programmed to self-abandonment. That actually feels safe, even though it's not. And it's suffocating our soul and disconnecting us from our personal power and keeping us stuck. So this one simple moment, it was less than a minute. It had a huge, huge, huge impact on me. And it's very much tied into a lot of the other themes I've been experiencing in my life this past week as it relates to safety, feeling pleasure, as it relates to healing my own ancestral lineage. And my invitation for you is to really get curious about what you're apologizing for in your life, because most of the time, we don't need to be apologizing for what we're apologizing for. I also invite you to reflect on where perhaps you consider yourself to be high maintenance. Because oftentimes being high maintenance is really just being highly self aware. It means you know what you want and you're honoring what you need and you're not settling for less. And that's not being a burden. It means you know what you want and you are honoring what you need and desire and you're not settling for less. And it isn't a burden. It's emotional maturity, it's clarity, and it's self respect. And true healing is remembering that being clear and discerning and communicating your needs and desires and being self honoring, that's not high maintenance. That's high self worth. There's nothing wrong with having preferences, needs, and opinions and standards and desires. The world does not even flinch when men express them. But for women, we often feel guilty for doing the same. And this is the shame that we experience. And this is why something as small as correcting a coffee order or sending your food back because it wasn't cooked to how you ordered it, it feels high maintenance because it brushes against those old programs and the paradigm of the patriarchal society that we live in that equate deserving with being easy, low effort, and self sacrificing. So we have been conditioned to apologize for our power, for our needs, and our desires. But asking for what you want in your coffee, in your relationships, in your job, in your salary, in your life isn't too much. It's actually self respect. And as women, it's so important for us to, number one, create awareness for where we are playing into these paradigms within ourselves, because that's how we begin to shift out of this conditioning. It's by looking at our own conditioning and creating safety, not just being in our power and being in our pleasure, but creating safety around having desires, creating safety around having needs and allowing ourselves to actually meet them and to begin to rewrite the narrative that women have been living. And we do this one coffee order at a time. Let's shift out of this high maintenance to really just recognizing it for what it is. We have high standards because we are high value and high worth women. That's not something that you need to earn. It's not based on your achievements. That's based on you being here on this planet in this lifetime. You are innately worthy. You are a divine, magical goddess, exactly as you are. And you deserve to feel pleasure. You deserve your desires. You deserve to live a life that turns you on and feels good. You're not here to self sacrifice and to play as small as possible and to doubt yourself. No, you have magic. You create life. You have the power to create life inside of you, and you deserve to live the most magical life ever. Oh, okay. This is something that I am incredibly passionate about, and really the foundation of the work that I do with women, helping them shift out of these paradigms to heal what's beneath these patterns and to really create a life that feels even better than it looks, to create the life that you deserve and desire to live. So, if you are looking for support on your journey, then click the link in the show notes. Let's have a conversation about how coaching and mentorship can support you. And as always, I am sending you so much love. It's such an honor to be able to share these episodes with you and to be a part of your journey and to have you as a part of my journey. Send me a message on Instagram. Let me know how this episode resonated with you. I love connecting with you. I love to hear your perspective on this topic. If you've ever had an experience where perhaps you apologize for not knowing something, right? That's another one. Someone asks you for directions and you're like, "I don't know, sorry." It's like, "Why am I sorry for not having Google Maps memorized in my brain?" Like, we need to stop apologizing for shit. And also, apologizing is often a way to bypass our own shame. So we need to dive into the shame so we can alchemize it. We can turn our pain into our power and become who we're meant to be. I send out journal prompts and an embodiment ritual for every single episode. You can click the link in the show notes for, I appreciate you being here and I'm sending you so much love and I'll see you next week.